What happens to your money and property after you or a family member dies? So today we are going to be talking about wills and living trusts and things like that. So it's not something necessarily that you need to worry too much about right now, but it is good financial advice for the future. And so something that you should pay attention to and have in your mind for later. In order to know where our money goes when we're gone, we need to have an estate plan that details what we would like done with our money. If we don't have an estate plan, then the probate court will decide where the money goes. And in a simple case, like if you're married, that will go to your spouse. If you've got kids, it would go to your kids. But sometimes the cases are not that simple. So you really need a plan and you need something figured out. And that goes everywhere from what to do with money and property to what to do with kids to what to do with all kinds of different assets and plans. So estate planning is a process that helps you plan for the distribution of belongings and finances in the event of death. And an important part of estate planning is creating a living will. That is, in other words, to create a will while you're living, to make a plan for what happens with your money. Now, a lot of people might think that, well, I don't have an estate, I'm not rich, I don't have all that money. Well, it's still something that you probably need to do. And then especially once there are kids involved in your life, that if you have kids, you really need to make a plan for what happens with those kids and where they go. So what do you think are the important aspects of a will? Use nolo.com and aarp.org, those are in your notes, to list 7 important components of a will. So pause the video for a few minutes to do that. Okay, so a few important aspects of a will. Number 1, we have the naming of an executor, and that is someone who will ensure that your assets are distributed in line with your wishes. It's important to have somebody who you trust and have somebody who you've had a conversation with or many conversations with in order to make sure that there are no crossed wires. You don't want somebody looking at your will and not having any idea what to do. This is somebody who, not an attorney, but somebody who is a member of your family and somebody who you trust to allocate your assets in the way that you have planned. An explanation of how you would like your estate distributed, including property, stocks, bonds, savings, sentimental items, and other assets. This is something that is important because you really don't want to end up in a position where, I don't know, where there's some ambiguity. You want everybody to know exactly what they get and why they get it and not be surprised by anything. A statement that the document is a will. So this is a will. Your signature made in the presence of at least 2 witnesses. Identification of guardians for your children, dependents, or pets. Definition of how you would like your social media accounts handled and passwords for those accounts. That's something that, we haven't had to think about for too long. But, do you just want all your stuff deleted? Do you want it to be just kept up and people wish you happy birthday on your birthday, things like that? And up to you. And last is identification of who you would like to manage any property you leave to minor children. So if somebody dies with young kids and their assets belong to those young kids, well, somebody has to watch those kids. Somebody has to manage those assets until those kids become of the age to have that property. And so these are all things that you should look at ahead of time and that you should have planned. One really important thing, and this is not something, again, that you guys need to worry about right now. This is something that you'll probably worry about when the time comes, but you need to have meetings with everybody where you have very frank and honest conversations about what the plan is if in case something were to happen. You don't want anybody to be surprised. So just as sort of a practice, I want you to make a list of 10 assets that you would want to make a plan for in the case of your death. List who would get each of your 10 items, who would be the executor of your estate, that is, who would be the person that is responsible for making sure your wishes are carried out and your assets are distributed as you want, and why did you choose that person, why do you think it's important to create a will? So these are all things in your notes. Pause the video so that you can answer these things in your notes. I do need you to have answers to these questions in this assignment. And then last thing, write in your notes about the importance of managing risk and how you will manage risks in the future. This sort of goes back to yesterday when we talked about insurance as well. What are the steps you will take to fulfill life goals while minimizing financial risk? And how will you ensure your assets and family are protected no matter what life brings your way? So I want you to answer those 3 questions in that last note, in that last box. And that is it for today.